So most students are applying for college, but not really understanding the major they're interested, the job that's going to be open when they leave college, and they're just going based on what they think is fascinating or what they think will pay well. So, since I work so much with test prep and rising college students, I wanted to kind of kick off a series where I get to talk to real career professionals who have been in the industry for a little bit of time to talk about different majors and, really importantly, like what is happening in those current fields and maybe some big shifts and changes to factor in if you're going to be studying this in college. So, ironically, my first person who I am interviewing is actually my husband. My husband has had a good sized career in tech. Even we're both in our 30s. And if you've been watching me for a while, you're probably wondering why it looks so different and fancy. I'm in Chicago. I'm in the Kit studio that we get to use, and it's beautiful. So thank you to Kit. But that being said, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off. I'm going to have my husband introduce himself and just give a quick summary of his background before I ask some questions.
All right. Hello, everyone. Yes, I am Rebecca's husband. My name is Ian, and I have been in the tech industry for a little over 10 years now. I started off doing, kind of DoD Army simulation coding, transitioned into Android development ultimately, which is where I'm at now. I currently work as a tech lead at a payments industry company where we build tech for point-of-sale systems to work with payment terminals, these little readers where you actually swipe your card, get that data securely to your bank so you can be approved for whatever you're trying to buy. So at a high level, that's what I work with day in, day out. I'm sure we have a lot more fun questions to go.
We do. And we do. And what I need to mention, especially when you fly for work, and we won't be mentioning this company's name, but he has a lot of credit card reading software, which is always a little sketchy when you look in the office about, I don't know, it's just a little sketchy.
Yeah,
I
have a whole shelf.
A whole shelf.
Of there's currently 5 payment terminals just sitting on the shelf. I have I have a shelf somewhere in the closet that has even more because there's too many for my desk, really.
Well, it looks sketchy.
It's funny. The funny thing was, though, when we flew to Chicago, it felt so weird not packing payment terminals because I'm so used to doing that for flying to my company.
Yeah, that whole thing. Okay, so one unique aspect outside of just being in tech and being a computer coder. So your bachelor's degree is in computer science.
That's correct.
With a minor in math.
Yes.
From UCF because we actually met at UCF. So
Charge on.
I know, pretty much. But that being said, you're also been involved in a lot of hiring too, which always makes it a little bit unique. So
Yes.
give me from a high level is if you were interviewing a younger, fresher college grad, what are some key things that will set someone apart and what are some big red flags?
So historically, the hiring I've been a part of has been more mid to senior level. So we haven't had many new grads. A lot of what we're looking for is really confidence that you can actually do the job. So we know that our industry has a lot of domain knowledge that most people are not going to know coming in. So it's not that you're expected to have, specific experience in the payment industry, but we want to see that you've got, since we work with Android code, we want to see that you've got experience building Android apps, experience with the Kotlin language. So things that can set you apart are absolutely our projects that you've done in your spare time. Maybe it was for a class. If you have something on the App Store, always cool to see. Not a requirement. It's kind of like a living public portfolio that you would see with a lot of other industries. Having that portfolio of work that you've completed is really one of the best things you can do when you're coming out of college, because it's hard, right? You're in school, you're there to learn, you've got a lot of schoolwork, a lot of projects you're working on. It can be hard to put something together on the side like this, but that's part of why it's not a requirement, but absolutely can help you shine if that's something you do. Most software engineers love to tinker, so I imagine if you're in that boat already, that you've built something, even if you haven't polished it and published it. So anything you can do to show all that is really cool. Another thing we really look for is just knowledge of the language itself. So we'll ask very specific questions, show you bad code, and see how you go about fixing it. Just kind of live demonstration of how you think through things. So I think that covers your
I think that
first
covers,
question.
yeah, kind of the basics. One thing that people are kind of on different sides, I mean, you talk about this a lot because we use a lot of AI, about the whole thing about junior positions, which would be, if you're not privy to that language, it would be like a fresh out of college grad would be going for a junior software engineer position, is what it's called. And so what do we know about how like Claude Code is affecting that? And then what about, is there ways to still stay competitive, like with all this rollout of Claude?
That is a big question.
From a high level.
AI is already changing the industry, all industries. I don't think enough people are capable yet to predict how much the industry is going to change in the next 5 years. Nobody has a crystal ball.
Yeah.
We can make guesstimates based on what we're seeing. Claude Code can do a lot. Just to be realistic and honest, a talented senior engineer who knows what they're doing can probably accomplish the work of 5 to 10 people.
Which is no joke. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I personally do not hold the position that this is going to wipe out junior level roles. I think it's a big oversight when companies like Meta firing or refusing to hire juniors, because you've got to stop and think at some point where if you stop hiring a certain level in 20 years, you're not going to have the next level up. And maybe their plan is to completely automate everything with AI.
Maybe.
I don't know. But that goes back to the crystal ball. We don't know what it's going to look like. Everything is going to shift. Work will look different. Exactly how different, we don't know. From my experience with development and using AI, I think it's just another tool that needs to be taught. And we still are going to have junior engineers because you're not born a senior. You have to learn, you have to practice, you have to grow into that.
Yeah.
So I think as a whole, within, hopefully within the next 3 years, the industry has a better answer of what to do with juniors. I don't think it's a matter of the job's not going to exist. It's going to be more figuring out how to apply the knowledge and skill set appropriately.
So pretty much give yourself a leg up and learn Claude Code if you want to apply and be in CS for the long run. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing, is it can be a competitive edge.
I would stand by that.
Yeah.
It is a shift, and it's a shift I think a lot of us are still trying to figure out, myself included. It's more holistic than just an engineer, right? Like when you're studying computer science, you're studying programming, algorithms, databases, you're learning all the nuts and bolts of how to make systems work. But when you can just orchestrate all that through a chatbot like Claude, you need system level thinking, which is generally what you learn over the course of 5 to 10 years as you grow from junior to senior. And this is the answer that we still have yet to figure out perfectly. How do we get someone who's in college learning how to program and design databases
Not just vibe
low
code.
level
Yeah.
kind of things. How do we get that shift from just focusing on the nuts and bolts to thinking more holistically? If you look at a small company compared to a medium company, compared to the giants, they have very different needs for their tech stacks, their systems, the frameworks they use, the languages they use, what architecture their backend systems are run by. It varies a lot based on the size of the company, what their product actually is, and how many customers they expect to have. Because you can have the same product, but as you go from 100,000, a million, 5 million concurrent users, those are totally different ball games. This is something you generally would learn over time, how to really apply what you learn in school. So if we're looking at what's the best way to get on board with AI,
Just use,
Think-
use
in
it.
a sense, it is just use it, yes, but to give more than just a simple just use it, start with the projects that you're already working on, right? You're probably making some utility function that can help you out with what you're doing. Great. Make it better. Use AI, use Claude to make it better. Then think bigger. And this is going to be the hard step, I think. When you're looking at just the nitty gritty, how do I code XYZ? How do you jump forward 10 years in time to thinking holistically, what am I building? What is the product? You don't have to think of it as like a product you're going to sell, but just I would encourage you to look for a project that is bigger than you think you can handle. This is where it's going to become most helpful. And it will be weird at first, kind of finding the balance between coding, designing the system, having Claude do things, because there's going to be this mix of you still want to look at the code, you still want to write the code, and yes, you need to, but it will shift over time, at least as you learn how to use it, depending on how big of a project you're working on. It will shift from let me analyze every minute detail and let me do half the code to, all right, Claude, we're going to build this feature and then we're going to review it towards the end. Testing along the way, calling out issues in the code that you see, brainstorming architecture. It's a learning process, but I think one of the biggest things to keep in mind is as you learn how to use AI for coding is to think bigger than what you think you can accomplish on your own. Because ultimately, that is the goal of these tools. They're to help us as humans accomplish more, do more in the long run. It's not about cutting people out. It's about accomplishing more, getting more done.
Yeah.
So think projects that are bigger than you think you can handle.
So you're just trying to pretty much challenge yourself a little bit more with
Absolutely.
AI. So here's another controversial question is, do you think that especially with computer science, it makes any sense to get a master's degree, or is it pretty much lighting student loans on fire?
I don't have a master's degree.
No,
I'm
he
not
does
sure
not.
if I'm qualified to answer that one.
Well, you've been around plenty of people with, I would assume, master's degree, like in the industry in computer science. Do you see them like way ahead of their colleagues, or is it really on who's performing better?
It depends on what you're trying to do. If you are the type of person to get a master's degree in CS, you're not going to be one of my colleagues.
You're going to be
gonna
at
be
the big
working
boys.
At Google, at Amazon, trying to push the boundaries of the tech,
Yeah, that makes sense.
not utilize the tech.
I think it depends on like career objectives and career goals, and if especially if you want to be with the big titans and move up fast in that industry, or if you layer in an MBA or something like that, and you want to be on the business end, that might make sense then. But on the side note, it's not going to unlock an insane salary right away either. So you have to be cautious with that before, especially if you're financially invested in that route.
Yeah, no, that's definitely been the historical trend. but I don't know if AI has been shifting that at all.
Who knows? It's shifting everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before we wrap up, since I know you've interviewed a lot of people because I hear all of them, what's your craziest interview story?
So the first one that comes to mind is this one young woman who was probably just a couple years out of college. Every time I showed a new code sample for her to look at, I saw her screen flash, reflected on her face, reflected on her glasses. I could see that she was taking screenshots. But the worst part about it, she didn't even do well in the interview. Like, she did not answer the coding questions well at all. So I don't know if she was
Shoving it
storing for memory or some kind of scam or just trying to get help but doing very poorly at it.
That's super sketchy.
Oh, there was another time we had interviewed a guy. His answers were really weird. They were delayed. Like, we would have to ask the question, we'd almost have to ask it again, and then he would have to repeat it out loud in a weird way, and then eventually things started to fall into place, but they were still kind of like not great answers. By the end of it, it was very clear we were not moving forward with this candidate. That afternoon or the next day, I don't remember, his LinkedIn profile was completely different, and it was not him. So this was a scam. I don't know what their end game was exactly, but
that's super sketchy.
it was.
Yeah.
This person was literally not the person they were claiming to be.
That's
And we
even
saw the
worse.
holes. We saw signs. We didn't put together that it was a fake candidate until after seeing the LinkedIn afterwards. Because I looked up before. This LinkedIn profile was non-existent before the interview.
That's so
After, now it's there. It's
Now
the
it's
same
there.
resume, but this face is not the face we just had a phone call with.
That's a little weird. People are sketchy sometimes. Well, on that strange note, we'll go ahead and wrap up. So if you have some questions in particular, I am happy to, drop them in the comments, and I'm happy to pass them along and get some feedback, because I do know now a decent amount with CS stuff that I do not know at all. So feel free to let us know. And also, if you like this style and you want to hear more from professionals, let us know in the comments who you're looking for. We have quite a few connections to different professionals in the military that are active doctors, nurses, lawyers, all of those. And we would love to actually talk to those people and share that information if you're someone who's in college or going to college. So regardless, don't forget to hit subscribe, and we hope to see you soon.